part that I have control over, which is how I feel. How I feel about what's happening around me, the traumatic events that are taking place, the trauma that is being incurred simply because of exposure to it. And then what do I do? The only part I really have control over is my well-being as it relates to taking care of myself. And then the next step would be, how do I, in taking care of myself, support a movement associated with shining the light on injustice, making use of my platforms to support a movement of change. So I definitely would like to, after the break, continue this dialogue. I actually have some insight that I received from Psalm 77. I think I shared that with you. And then how we can apply this rear view expectancy in light of this reality in a way that actually fosters change that helps us to evolve, adapt, and grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you. We hope you're enjoying this conversation that Shauna and I are having on the subject of rear view expectancy. We want to thank everybody for tuning in with us. If you're just joining us, Happy New Year. We are excited about what it is that we're going to bring forward in the months ahead as we continue our podcast. Village Talk, where we highlight the voices and views of the community. We look forward to seeing you on the other side.
Feature your business with a full or half-page ad in an upcoming issue of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine. Advertise your business, book, or event and reach potential clients. Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine covers and features stories in business and entrepreneurship, education, performing arts, sports, community outreach, fashion, travel and real estate, health and wellness, and more. Contact us at info@vnpmagazine.com, or you can reach out to our Director of Sales, Ms. Karen McConnell-Jones, at 202-904-1000. Vision and Purpose, inspiring our community.
Welcome back to Village Talk, where we are here highlighting the views and voices of the community. I am Shauna King, and my co-host Courtland Jones is with me. And Courtland, when we left off, for those people who just now tuned in to this episode of Village Talk, we're talking rear view expectancy. And, it sounds funny to say rear view expectancy, but, we're really talking about what lessons did we learn in 2020, looking back, but yet still looking forward and being excited about what is to come. But then at the same time, understanding where we are and understanding all the different events and things. So, we left off looking at, in the past 2020, but what about where we are now? And how does that help us to have a level of expectancy?
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate those questions that I shared in this first half, just in case someone's just joining us. So to me, rear view expectancy is intentional reflection on the past that inspires hope for the future. And from it, I got 4 questions that one would ask themselves, which I have, to look at how you can be hopeful about the future, inspired from what you have experienced in the past. And those questions are, what did I learn? How have I grown? What are my goals moving forward? And where did God reveal himself to me? And with the question that you asked, Shauna, these questions were relevant to me because halfway through 2020, I'm realizing, okay, I'm obviously not going to meet my financial goals that I had for my business. And that's fine. But by recognizing and reflecting on that, what did happen was being able to identify ways I could still serve and support the community. Mm-hmm. And our nonprofit had the privilege of being able to partner with a local high school to support them in what they're doing. And I was able to also offer my services to individuals and also financial support. Mm-hmm. So even though I didn't see the fulfillment of things that I desired, I still saw fulfillment in my faith relationship with God and how it was manifesting and blessing others.
And I think what you're saying is, even, maybe some of us set resolutions, as we said, from last year. Maybe some of those didn't come to fruition, or maybe not in the way that we thought. But what did you gain from that? And so, same thing. My business is, I work with schools. I work with school districts and organizations. And the majority of the time, I am speaking to a large crowd at a conference or a school district or something. And of course, because of COVID, that got shut down. And so in March, it was like, what in the world am I going to do? I'm not going to be invited to speak at anybody's school district right now because we can't even bring people together. School's not in session yet. By April, I was up and running on the virtual platform, and who knew we would be zooming all day long. And I would have, hundreds, thousands of people looking at my office as
Right.
I'm delivering training virtually. So is there something that I've learned this year? There's some skills that I've gained. And then even when we think about schools, I'm very sensitive, and, both of us are educators about, people talk about all the things kids have lost or going to lose this year. But what about the things that they're gaining, right? I have a niece who's first grade, and she can tell you about that breakout room and how to work this and all that type of stuff. That's not knowledge that most first graders would have had
Right.
not been for this very unfortunate situation. But how about, the gratitude that you talked about? And how do we look at whatever the situation is and say, well, maybe I didn't get what I thought I was supposed to get out of 2020. I wrote a book, I wrote a devotional about fear in
Yeah.
2020. That was not on my list. It
Yeah.
was not on my list of things to do. But in the moment when I was dealing with so many different things, and fear was one of them, fear of losing my business, fear of even getting the virus, fear of one of my family members got the virus. There was so much fear that too my faith in God drew to devotion and saying, how do I do that? So no, that wasn't on my list. But hey, what did we get out of that? And so I'm grateful for that. So yeah, we also have to say, where are we now, even if it's different than where we thought we were going to be?
Yeah. And I remember in supporting you in your journey, reading
Hmm. Yeah.
one of your days, Ground Zero. I don't remember what day it was, but it resonated so much with me. The impact of trauma is another way to, summarize that particular day, but it
Yeah.
resonated so much. And I think when you think about 2020 reflection, looking back, I just want to reiterate this reflection is intentional. It's not about reflecting on things that were hurtful simply to just feel that pain over again. It's intentional reflection on something that was learned, something that prompt growth in me, or something that is helping me see possible goals for the future, or in what way did I see God intervene in my life that moved me forward
Hmm.
from where I was to where I am today. And so, in what you shared about the book that you published, that you had no expectancy on being, seeing yourself do that.
Mm-mm.
It reminds me of something I wrote in my book, Out of the Darkness, that there were certain things God said He was going to do involving treasures of darkness in the book of Isaiah. I always interpreted that God was saying there are certain things that I'm going to bless you or give you or cause you to do that come as a result of the darkness. So the darkness then becomes the only means by which that treasure can be experienced. So it's something good. And we know the verse that says, and God works all things together for good for them that love him, who are called according to his purpose. So there is a blessing. It may not seem like it in the moment of what we're experiencing as it relates to the darkness, but there is a blessing in that if we can have the right mindset or frame of mind to see God or see God at work in the midst of that.
Yeah. And sometimes that can be really hard, right? I mean, when we've lost loved ones, because I also lost loved ones this past year. and then looking at the state of our country with, with the issues of inequality and social justice. So it's hard sometimes to say, are you sure there's a blessing coming out of this? And I get it, but trusting that all things will work together. And that does not mean we just sit back on our hands and twiddle our thumbs. That we're all called to do the work and have a level of action towards what's happening here in the world. But still, as you said earlier, there's a rest in God. There's a calm that we have to have when we trust in God, even in the midst of the chaos that may be going on in the world.
Yeah, so I see in what you're saying, 2020 also reinforced to me, this is the time and opportunity for faith to be put to work.
Mm-hmm.
Just about every great miracle that occurred in the Bible was preceded by some adversity.
Mm.
And so when you think about it from that perspective, 2020 is actually an invitation for those who respond to and see it that way, the opportunity to see God on a miraculous level in a way that we may not have experienced him prior to. And like you said, though we're not trying to suggest to people, somebody just passing, hey, well, look at the bright side, a blessing is coming. That's not necessarily how we're trying to convey it. But at the same time, we do understand that that is a way in which God works and moves in the earth. And while we're on that subject, let me just share real quick. So as we talked about this subject of Rearview expectancy, I was reminded of Psalm 77, particularly verse 10 through 12. When you read the psalmist expresses distress and feeling distraught at the beginning of the psalm. But then they choose to intentionally reflect on the past. And they specifically say, then I thought to this, I will appeal. The years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. I will meditate on all your works and consider all your mighty deeds. So what I see is someone who's intentional about what they're going to reflect on, and it's the past, but it's in association with how God worked in their life in a particular way or a particular time period that they would then use as hope or motivation for how they were going to move forward. Keeping in mind, when they started the psalm, it literally starts out saying, I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me when I was in distress. I sought the Lord. At night, I stretched out untiring hands, and my soul refused to be comforted. So at the time the psalm starts, they're in distress and distraught, but use reflection as a means to shift their thinking, and they began to focus on the Red Sea miracle. And so I'm seeing the psalm as a way to move from a place of feeling distressed and distraught and be hopeful, as you started our show talking about.
Yeah. And what comes to my mind when you say that is don't forget to remember, right? Yeah. Don't forget to remember. And so as much as 2020 may have brought some loss and some negative things, don't forget to remember how God kept you. Don't forget to remember how you made it through to 2021. Don't forget to remember those things, because those are lessons that are going to take you into the new year. And I remember I was listening to someone speak a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about even when you've lost someone, we often think about the fact that we've lost them, and they're not here anymore, and that truly can hurt. But even taking the time to be grateful, count the years that they were with you. When did you meet them? Is this a family member? Is this somebody? So for my case, it was my best friend who I met in college, and so shifting the fact that she's not here with me on this earth anymore, but for 24 years Deanna was in my life, and so it shifted my train of thought to be able to say I'm grateful for those 24 years that I did have her in my life. And so there's always something where that lesson from what that pain, or as you say, that difficult difficult time, how can we then help use that to launch us into the future? And God can change that whole story where it goes from the wailing, as you said, or the crying out,